What is going on, GBA Universe? My name is Brandon, and welcome to week 1 of the GBA Waiver Wire show. A show where I profile a Pokemon that was not drafted in the GBA, and tell you exactly why they'd be great in the GBA format. Now, in the future with these episodes, I want to look at Pokemon that we don't see as much in the League format, but this week I wanted to profile a Pokemon that I think has been criminally ignored in the draft, and I wanted to bring it to the attention of the masses, and want everybody to know that I am not happy that Hydreigon is a free agent. So, if we look at his base stats, 92 in HP, 105 in attack, 90 in defense, 125 in special attack, 90 in special defense, and 98 in speed. So he's kind of sitting in a weird speed tier, but nothing below a 90 in stats, which is excellent, and you have two attack stats being over 100, which is pretty good. So, looking at those stats, it's like nothing's low. But then again, nothing's extremely high besides that special attack stat sitting at 125, which is decently high. So, he's a very balanced Pokemon, and I'm going to go into Showdown. I'm going to show you different things we can do with Hydreigon, and different ways he can be used, because there's a wide array of ways Hydreigon can be used. He has a large move pool, really balanced stats. Hydreigon's only real downfall is being quad weak to Fairy. But the one advantage of being quad weak to Fairy is the fact that there is no hidden power Fairy. So there isn't just going to be any special Mon who can come out and just hit Hydreigon with a hidden power Fairy and take him out with you not expecting it, which is a real advantage in my eyes. So before we get into Pokemon Showdown, let's just go over some of the reasons I think Hydreigon might not have been drafted. Now, the one obviously being his quad weakness to Fairy. Now, the importance that the coaches have on getting a strong Fairy type on their team does make Pokemon like Hydreigon, and even like Pokemon like Scrafty to that point, kind of less valuable, because most teams each week are wanting to feature a strong Fairy type every time they go out to play a game. Another reason is each team can only have so many Tier 1 Mons. Now, if you go to the GBA fan doc, which I'll make sure is in the description below, you're going to see that there was 8 Pokemon in Tier 1 not taken. It's just the sad fact is, teams can only afford so many Tier 1 Pokemon. Some were going to get left out, and it just happened to be Hydreigon was one of them that got left out. And the last reason I had that Hydreigon wasn't taken in the GBA draft is the GBA is filled with coaches and that have a huge amount of experience in Pokemon, and sometimes you get bored of using the same Pokemon over and over again. Hydreigon's one of those Pokemon that gets a lot of use in OU and UU. It has gotten a lot of use in the GBA in the last couple years. He got it in Season 4, Miguel used them really well. Last year, John used them very well. I think that was the order it went. I think it was Season 4, Miguel had him, Season 5, John had him. And it's possible nobody was just interested in using a Pokemon that gets that much screen time, that is that featured on a lot of teams. But along with the reasons he wasn't drafted, these are the reasons he should have been drafted. Hydreigon's still a strong pseudo-legendary with base 600 stats. Barely anything can wall a Hydreigon just because of the coverage it gets. Very few Pokemon want to take a Draco Meteor from a timid or modest invested Hydreigon, and it can not only be used as a special wall breaker, but also as a physically offensive force and a physically defensive force. But don't take my word for it, let's head over to Pokemon Showdown and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. So here on Showdown, I got a couple Hydreigons to show you. The first one is your kind of almost a basic Scarf Hydreigon set, Choice Scarf, Dragon Pulse, Flamethrower, U-Turn, Dark Pulse, the U-Turn just to get out if you don't want to be in there. And this is kind of the Pokemon, this is kind of the Hydreigon you can bring in for that late game sweep. When everything on your opponent's team is kind of been weakened at some point, everything's sash would be broken, maybe you got hazards up on the other side of the field. Everything's going to be weakened at some point, and now you can just start clearing out your opponent's team one by one now that they've all been weakened. So this is a late game Scarf Sweeper. And one thing I want to say, with all the EVs on these Hydreigons, I would play with all of them, so maybe you're speed creeping the fastest Mon on your opponent's team. So if your opponent's going to be bringing a Mega Lopunny, you want to play with the EVs, so you're going to be able to outspeed that Lopunny, just because you want to be able to outspeed to a point. You don't want to be able, you don't ever just max your speed out for the whole idea of maxing your speed out when you're playing in a draft format. You want to take their fastest Pokemon, if you're using a Scarf set like this, and bring the speed up only as much as you can, because you can invest those other EVs into somewhere else that you might need them, like in offense or even defense. HP points is a place I like to put extra EVs in if I'm not using all that speed. So take your opponent's fastest mon and speed creep that, and then take the rest of the EVs and put them into the HP. Or if you're happy with your Pokemon HP the way it is, even invest it in defense or special defense. The next set I have here is Choice Specs set. Now, this is the set for breaking through those walls you just cannot break through with your Pokemon that have less in the way of, special attack or attack stats. Mainly special attack, obviously, for this one. So if you just got that one specially defensive mon that you just cannot get past, this is the way to get past it. You throw those Choice Specs on to Hydreigon. You can even put a move like U-Turn on here instead of Focus Blast. I'm just trying to show you the amount of moves that it can get. You throw U-Turn on there somewhere, U-Turn out if it's not where you want it to come in, and then bring it in as a revenge killer and just start blowing things up. Again, you can put the speed in certain places. You can even make this one, make this Hydreigon timid. You want to be able to break down the walls though with this one, Take out those things you aren't able to take out with any other Pokemon. The next Hydreigon I actually have here is one that Miguel used in Season 4 of the GBA against, I can't remember who it was against, but it was against an Entei. It was an Entei wall. This was almost a specialized Entei wall, but I find it works a lot for different kinds of walls, as long as they're not bringing any heavy-hitting fighting moves or heavy-hitting ice moves. This could be used as a physical wall, and it just eats up hits. It ate up so many Sacred Fires. It's just like, yes, more Sacred Fires, please. Give me more Sacred Fires. It's just, I love them so much. This thing ate so many Sacred Fires. You put this thing along with a Heal Beller on a team, you're gonna have no issues. It's going to just eat up the Sacred Fires. If it gets burned, switch it out. Maybe you have an Umbreon that you have Heal Bell on. Maybe you have a Chansey you have Heal Bell on. Maybe you have Aromatherapy on a Florges somewhere. So you bring in the Florges, you bring in your Chansey, you bring in your Umbreon, Heal Bell, boom. Burn is gone, roost up, and we're good. And then you can Toxic whatever you want. And then you got Dark Pulse on there just to hit things with. You use that instead of Dragon Pulse or Draco Meteor, though, because it'll hit everything. You're not going to have any problem with a Fairy coming in and being completely immune to your hit. You're at least going to get some damage off on it. And you just throw all your EVs into HP and defense. You're going to have a good time. Now, the last Hydreigon I have here is actually a fully physical Hydreigon. It's going to be Choice Banded, it's going to be Adamant, or you can make it Jolly depending on what speeds you kind of need. Again, that's a big thing. Make sure you're outspeeding the things you have to outspeed as long as, you can. This one has U-Turn, Iron Tail, Superpower, and Crunch. Again, you could move out different moves, put different ones in. The Iron Tail, though, I think is great, though, because I find a lot of fairies are specially defensive and usually built that way, like Florges and Sylveon. And, if you're using a Hydreigon, people are probably going to switch in their fairy types to you because you're quad weak to them, right? So they're going to want to get in the fairies as quickly as they can. If you can predict the switch and get the Iron Tail off, they might not go down, but they're going to take a big hit off of it, and especially a Choice Band, it's going to actually hurt quite a bit. And you could cripple one of their fairies, but just by doing that. And who doesn't love to cripple a specially defensive fairy type? But that's all I got for this week. Make sure you leave a like on the video, leave a comment down below. Who do you think is kind of underrated in the league format, and what kind of Pokemon would you like to see featured on a Waiver Wire show in the future? And also, what kind of interesting Hydreigon sets do you have? How do you like to use a Hydreigon? How do you like to use your Hydreigon? Let me know in the comment sections down below. I'd love to know. Week 1 of the GBA has come and gone, and it was a doozy, and I am so pumped for week number 2. But until then, I've been Brandon, and I will see you next week right here on the Waiver Wire show.